All right, it's time for Todd's Odds, brought to you by FanDuel with our sports betting analyst, Todd Fuhrman. We've just talked about the Jets and Stars series. Why don't we talk about the other three series that weren't playing on Tuesday night? We're going to begin with the Toronto Maple Leafs, who are set to take on the Florida Panthers in Game 5 in Toronto on Wednesday. And lo and behold, the Toronto Maple Leafs, Todd, are underdogs in Game 5, just as they have been underdogs in every game so far in this series. Based on what you've recently seen from Toronto, how much hope do you have that they can win this series over Florida?
You know, full disclosure, Jay, I've actually found myself backing the Leafs in each of the first 4 games. Been able to turn a slight profit, as you mentioned, with them being listed as an underdog. Unfortunately, I'm not going to the well again in Game 5. And while I don't think we should be eulogizing the Maple Leafs just yet, I am a little bit more concerned than I was going into Game 4, where they started to look like the same old Leafs. They weren't able to capitalize on the few chances they had. They squandered Joseph Woll playing absolutely outstanding hockey between the pipes. And when you dig into this Florida team and you try and find the weaknesses on their roster, the deeper you go into a series, the more that physically demanding, aggressive forecheck starts to wear on the blue line. And I'm as curious as all of Leafs Nation to see what kind of pushback we get from Toronto. Lean towards Florida in that $1.35, $1.40 range, but I'll be watching that game more as an impartial observer than anything else.
All right, now on to your Stanley Cup pick, the Edmonton Oilers. They are, oh, wait, Todd, I forgot to do something. Wayne, you ready? Here we go. Your Stanley
I didn't
Cup.
hear it land yet, Jay. I think it's still up in the air.
It's about to land any second. Probably by the end of this segment. Oilers heavy favorites to win their second round series over your Las Vegas Golden Knights. Do you believe, Todd, that series is over? And Edmonton, 7 wins in their last 8. I assume you're feeling pretty good about the Oilers as your Stanley Cup pick.
I never say never, but I do think this series is over. When you look at the way this Oilers team has performed, they're getting depth scoring that I don't think any of us envisioned was possible. And who knew how powerful it could be when Evander Kane comes riding into the rink in a high-end luxury automobile? He decided he had to mix things up between Games 3 and Game 4, but he's really been the X factor because we haven't seen that outstanding performance from Leon Draisaitl or Connor McDavid. And if you're an Oilers fan, you have to be extremely optimistic about that. And the other thing, for all of the Oilers' trials and tribulations when it comes to getting consistent goaltending, Stuart Skinner in Game 4 is apparently a very real thing. And if he can channel the form that we saw from him last year from Games 4 to 7 when he was nearly unbeatable, I think this Oilers team makes quick work of the Golden Knights and sets themselves up for a great opportunity to get back to the Stanley Cup final.
There you go. Perfect. Yeah, watch out, buddy. You did a terrific job, and I really mean this, and our whole crew was quite astounded. You did a terrific job of explaining why the Hurricanes started the playoffs as the favorite to win the Stanley Cup on FanDuel. And the main reason was their path was the easiest to get to the final. Now they're up 3-1 over the Washington Capitals, as you know. Are you a believer in the Canes to end this series and end up in the Cup final out east?
I am. I actually think this team has shown me an awful lot. And while we do have concerns about the Canes' high-volume shooting approach, they found a knack for getting some of those timely goals. And whether it's Sebastian Aho, who has a couple of goals on his resume so far this postseason, Andrei Svechnikov, who often has been injured that the Canes haven't been able to lean into, has been able to find the back of the net when they need him most. And this is all before we start to see the kind of production that I think a lot of us anticipate Seth Jarvis bringing to the table. But maybe most importantly for this Canes team, we're seeing exactly what a healthy Freddie Anderson in net can do for them. He's not asked to lift a heavy load by any stretch, but he's had a knack for making those timely saves. And I think their ability to potentially make very quick work in as few as 5 games against the Washington Capitals sets this team up for one of the better home ice advantages we've seen in the league. And go figure, Jay, in a story as old as time when you handicap sports, the one year you're not talking about one of the teams, especially one that was as highly regarded in the odds market as the Carolina Hurricanes, watch them finally break through and have a chance to win that elusive Stanley Cup again.
Not to mention the fact that Taylor Hall looks like the second coming of Justin Williams. Here we go. All right, Todd, I got one more for you, pal. I assume you're sticking with just the Oilers to win the Cup. And we love to give you this opportunity, would you like to add some other teams to your portfolio?
I am going to stick with just the Oilers right now, Jay. Not because I think there is a great opportunity to earn further with them the way they're currently being priced by our friends at FanDuel. But if I look at some of the other contenders, you're going to get much more bang for your buck betting them game to game or looking to try and essentially roll over some of the series prices that are out there. However, Jay, I'm going to go one step further, and because you are the consummate host and you provided that Carolina Hurricanes segue, there are two players that I mentioned that I think do offer some opportunity and upside in the Conn Smythe market. Freddie Anderson has become one of the more overwhelming favorites, but if Carolina is going to break through and engrave their name on the Stanley Cup, I think you're looking at prices of 24-1 on Seth Jarvis and 26-1 on Andrei Svechnikov being too much to pass up. I think their ability to fill it up and a knack for a timely goal here or there can have the same impact on this Canes team that Jonathan Marchessault did 2 years ago when the Golden Knights took down the Florida Panthers.
That's excellent advice from you, Todd Fuhrman, our sports betting analyst who provides great advice for us every single week on the show, especially to duck